Bonjour, hello, welcome to MaxMountainWorld. Up to my old tricks in the garage again, so forgive if the sound is whatever or the light is whatever. But I was trying to answer a question, a bit of a technical nerdy one, and I've just been playing around. The weather's been crap today, so yeah, here, check this out. And maybe someone can answer this, maybe not, but I've answered a couple of questions myself, I think. Check it out. So I was hoping to take some figures and data, as it were, but this took way longer than I thought, and I had a couple of technical issues in that. One, I managed to snap the thingy on my soldering iron, so I'll need to get another one of them soon. Dead easy and cheap to get. And also I snapped one of my wires bringing the Moxon in from testing outside. So what have I been doing? What I did was the Moxon, the one I've been using, I took the connection fitting to use with that. I'll come back to that in a minute. And I made up a new one, which, as you can see, quite a simple job, strong enough. PL, a double male, and then basically I'll just, every time I use it, well, it's jumping about, screw it into there. So I've got a male connection ready for me. So that's it. This cable here is not the original one that I've been using. Now, the original one that I've been using, well, I've had four, this is the fourth version of the Moxon. The original one I can't really remember. I think it was 1.5 mil wire that was used, and also the second and third were 1.5 mil. But I replaced it with this, which is 0.75 mil. Now, when I went from the drop down in actual wire size, there was no difference in the performance, nothing detectable anyway. Nothing detectable in transmit or receive. But what I did notice was that my bandwidth for my tuning, my SWR, got wider. So with the setup I have of the Moxon just now, as I have it there, and as I used it yesterday, a fantastic outing yesterday, 26 dead, I'm doing all this from the top of my head, 26 dead, it goes up to 1.4. 28 dead, it goes to 1.4. Between 26.5 and 27.5, it virtually doesn't move. Now that's with the 0.75. Before, those figures were the same at the center point, but, well, it wasn't the third iteration. The first and second were different because the center point was, I had as 27.2. I work with 27.0 now, which is right between where I work, right in the middle. So, yeah, originally, versions 1, 2, and 3, with the thicker cable, I had an SWR at the extremes, i.e. 26 and 28 dead, were 1.7-ish, 1.8-ish, 1.9. As I say, I had the center point different, but I did notice a difference. So I got curious, and what I did was I got myself some... I broke this bringing it back in, as I say, which is really annoying. But I made an exact replica of the size. That's copper wire. This has all been copper wire throughout, all the different versions of this. And I duplicated exactly the wire sizes, the insulator sizes, and everything. And it worked because I knew it worked because when I set it up on its own with the smaller cable, it took the same shape with a slight 5-degree upsweep towards the driving element, the powered element. And I noticed when I tuned it, 26 went down to 1.2. The center point, exactly the same, didn't move between 26.5 and 27.5, but up at 28, 1.2. So the bandwidth was wider for my tuning. And yeah, I'm just wondering what's going on there. Why is it better with the thinnest cable? I then got curious on the mobile stuff, and up against the wall here I have my 3 FireStix and my 3 Stinger stroke Springers. Now, I'll explain. The right hand one is a Springer, SPR, Sierra Papa Romeo, and the other 2 are Stingers. Uh-oh, phone's going. Where was I? Oh yeah, name that tune on my phone. Anyway, hopefully I don't get hit for that one actually. Yeah, so on the right here is the Springer, SPR, Sierra Papa Romeo Springer. That is my original Stinger. And the one on the left, the red one, is the newest Stinger, which is slightly different. The coils are all the same size, they're the same number of turns, the fixings all look more or less the same. The difference is, you can see the older Stinger, ST, Sierra Tango, has a slightly longer base on it than that, and that's the shortest one there. I could never get that Springer on the right there to cover all the band at an acceptable level of SWR. The one in the middle, no problem. The one on the left, better than the one in the middle, the newest one, the red one. I got a red one because I wanted it easily identifiable in the car if I'm carrying more than one Stinger, Springer or whatever. Now, the Springer on the right had a bit of an accident and I had to try and straighten the wire, but you'll see the size of the wire is thick at the top. You can see where I'm going now. The original Stinger is thin on the top, and roughly halfway between the 2 is the red one. Now, is that some kind of effect? The thinner the wire, the thinner that is, the wider the bandwidth again. Now, I then got curious still onto FireStix. Now, I've got them on being rigid antennas on spring damping mounts. Also extends them for 11 meters, especially 26. Now, people probably don't appreciate this, but when a fire stick has its coil going up, it goes up and up and up and to a finer bit where this is tight wound, and it's also thinner. Surprise! Now the same is on all 3, the 4 foot, the 3 foot and the 2 foot, or in order 120 centimeters, 90 centimeters, 60 centimeters. Now I've found the little one, much better bandwidth. Why? Okay, so this cable, I don't know how they do it, but it's thinner when it goes onto this part here. Now if I put the 3 foot one next to the 4 foot, you'll see that that thinner part is longer. And same goes again, the 2 foot one. So there's more thin wire inside the fire stick, the smaller fire sticks, which is probably why it kind of half explains why I get better performance out of the 2 foot than the 3 foot and the 4 foot. So the object of the video is to say that I get better antenna results the thinner the wire or the top end of the Stinger Springers and things. The thinner the better. Now I don't know if you've got mast, you've got stuff like silver rods with the buttmans that size and stuff, and I always thought, well, that's going to be more powerful. But is it? Maybe that's why the likes of the IMAXs, the likes of the Antrons work better, because they've got a thin wire. It's not that big round jobby at the bottom end of it sort of thing in aluminium or whatever. So that's it. Give me some thoughts on this. Give me some comments below if some of you actually know what I'm talking about, i.e. if you actually know the theory behind all this or whatever. But give me opinions and stuff, because these antennas, I'll go through it again just quickly in a minute. So thanks very much for watching. So a reiteration with my Moxon 4.0 you could call it. And as I say, exactly the same lengths, and that was working better with 0.1 millimeter wire as opposed to 0.75 millimeter wire. The original was 1.5, 1.5 millimeter wire. And in the increments coming back from that, 1.5, it improved the bandwidth, not the tuning in the middle, but the bandwidth of the tuning of the SWR, dropping from 1.5 to 0.75. And today I discovered an even more of a better result with the extremes of the bandwidth on 2 megs from 26 to 28 dead. When I went down to 0.1 millimeter wire, not practical to use that because it just snaps so easy, but just for experimental purposes in the garage, yeah. So, yeah, back to these guys, Springer on the right. It's a much, much thicker mast wire, whatever you want to call it, especially at the top. And that's probably why it got damaged so easy. The older one is slightly wider, and the newer one, the older one is slightly thinner, and the newer one even thinner yet, especially from the bottom. And that has had the same results. Bandwidth, not so good. Bandwidth better, bandwidth best. And with the FireStix, same thing. Not so good in the bandwidth. Actually, the 3-foot one was the worst. The 4-foot one was kind of slightly better, and the 2-foot one wins all the way as usual. So that's it. My play around in the garage. Experimentation. And please, yeah, if you know what I'm talking about, or if you know what I don't know what I'm talking about, please comment below.